People of every generation, but in particular millennials, are trading the idea of having their big apartments or homes for the concept of smaller living in a more free and sustainable way. And my guest today, Michael Youngblood. He is a managing editor at the Innovation Journal, as well as founder of Work From Anywhere. And John Craig, he here in Arlington started an organization called Empower Housing, are going to talk to us about co-living and co-working. Thanks for being with me.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
All right, this is a great sustainable concept, and I'm so excited to talk to you, Michael. Tell me a little bit about yourself, how you developed this idea, and also your experience in Indonesia when you did this yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Steve Jobs, somebody I look up to very much, was fond of saying that you can never connect the dots by looking forward. You have to trust into your future and hope that one day when you look back, you'll be able to connect the dots. And so when I think about the series of events that led up to this co-living experience in Bali, it really goes back to in college I was studying anthropology, which is really the study of people in groups, right? So I was studying these people in these groups, and I was trying to live as sustainably as possible, and my college was on the coast, and I actually spent a year living in a sailboat while going to school in a really small space, and I was as sustainable as it comes when I lived in the sailboat. And I graduated in 2007, really a year before, the Great Recession. And so I was essentially entering to a job market that was the worst since the 1930s. And, I realized over the years that the best way for me to watch out for sort of my professional development was by networking with people. And, again, sailing popped into my life this past summer when I took a group of 30 millennials on a vacation sailing in the Caribbean, and we spent a week down there. And it was on this trip when there were 30 people from 15 countries sailing for a week where we realized many of us worked on our laptop, from home or anywhere where we could. And through conversations, and we were sailing in the Virgin Islands in May, we realized that we could work literally from anywhere we wanted to. And so a group of us got together, and over the months we planned this trip, and in November, this is when we went to Indonesia, and 35 entrepreneurs from the ages of about 22 to 35 lived and worked together in a group house that could, it was a very sustainable house, and it fit all of us, very well. So we had 35 people for that.
Well, I mean, how many plates and dishes does every individual need, right? So you shared the experience. That's wonderful, and that sounds exciting. But, you're doing that here in Arlington, John, with Empower Housing. How does, Arlington space is a premium. How does it work here?
Well, let me give you a little background. Back in the 90s, I developed a concept called Voice Roundtable. I won't go into that. I have a patent on that now. And it's a way of creating a group discussion, much like a telephone conference call. And I was running medical support groups through this. I was very excited about it, and actually got some coverage eventually on CNN, CBS television, and in the Washington Post. And Oprah Winfrey show ran some clips of these audio discussions that I had created. So then I got hired by 3 different companies. 2 were startup.com type companies, and then a top-class hospital locally here. And each company was very excited about my invention, my concept, and yet each time something went wrong, and we never really launched this. We had a crude prototype, which we used, but we never launched it. So I stepped back and I thought to myself, what am I doing wrong, or how can I do something better to improve my chances for success? And I was reading about 3 different companies, Facebook, Google, and Netscape. And each of them began, Google and Facebook began on college campuses.
Well, sure, people living together.
Communal living situations.
Sharing ideas.
Exactly. So they had this community of support on the campus, and when they moved off campus, Google and Facebook, they moved into group residences where they were doing co-working and co-living together. With Netscape, it was the same thing. They were not connected with a campus, but they moved into a big office. They had 3 months to crank out the world's first web browser, and all the young techies, according to the founder, were living, in sleeping bags on the floor and staying there 24/7 just to crank this out. So,
But you know, living and working at the same time,
Right.
people often take work home with them. So it makes a lot of sense to take a break, maybe have a meal, and pick up a conversation either by the beach or here in Arlington, you know,
Right.
at your kitchen table. Well, I know recently that there was a discussion, and it's still being had, about 252 micro homes being built in Crystal City, where a company will have their employees live and work together. So
Right.
I'm eager to see how that model works, but I also think it's very interesting that you can gather innovators and creators and entrepreneurs together, break bread, share ideas, and, you know, develop, who knows, the next big thing. Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for sharing a little bit about your companies. I want to put your information up on the screen so that we can find out a little bit more about living and working together, and also what opportunities they have in other cities in addition to Arlington. Listen, if you would like more information, feel free to check us out on YouTube. I myself find this to be a very sustainable way of life, and I welcome you to look more into it. That's the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. Back to the news desk.